What's going on, everybody? Our number 2, a special podcast here, the Pro Wrestling Experience on ChicagoLandSportsRadio.com, episode 148. Right here on ChicagoLandSportsRadio.com. Road to episode 150 continues. I just went over the Wrestle Kingdom event. I thought it was a very enjoyable show. We got our special guest here. He's a connoisseur of MMA, On It, and Vanilla Coke. You can follow him at Twitter at Sean Ross Sapp. He is a writer and contributor and podcast host on WrestlingInc.com, and he's here on the Pro Wrestling Experience. Sean, how's it going today, buddy?
It's going great. I just want to make it clear, I no longer drink any sort of soda.
So let's get into business here. You covered the event this past Monday morning. In your opinion, was it worth the wait, and how would you compare this Wrestle Kingdom compared to last year's Wrestle Kingdom event?
Yeah, I covered the event for WrestlingInc.com, and anytime New Japan runs a pay-per-view with English commentary, I always go to my boss about 2 or 3 months early and make sure that I'm marked down for the assignment because I know it's going to be good. It's going to be very, very tough to top Wrestle Kingdom 10 for Event of the Year for 2016. You had 3 matches that were arguably 5-star matches. I gave the last 2 5-star matches. I probably would have given the first or the Ishii-Shibata match 5 stars. There was just something about the headbutts that made me a little bit uncomfortable. It just was not... that was a little disturbing for me to watch, knowing what I know about concussions now, but it was still an amazing match. I guess you could really only say the only bad match was the New Japan Rumble, and that was still a blast to watch.
Yeah. And... out of the blue, Haku and the Great Kabuki show up. I'll take the Rumble for what it was.
Haku in a Bullet Club shirt, no less. Yeah. WWE may come and raid him now.
You know, let's get into that before we continue talking about Wrestle Kingdom. We're talking to Sean Ross Sapp, by the way, here from WrestlingInc.com. Check out WrestlingInc.com. They've shared our interviews on the show on the site before. We appreciate their support. Sean. Obviously, that's the talk of town besides the big announcement for the Rumble match. Big news about WWE bringing in AJ Styles, the rest of the Bullet Club, and Nakamura. I think it's going to happen. The fact that WWE is actually going to do articles and say Triple H has declined to not respond to the rumors or anything like that. So I think it's pretty conclusion that this is going to happen. Where do you see this going? Do you think it's just an NXT thing to help their touring brand, or do you actually see these guys coming on the main show?
Well, from what I understand, the amount of money that's going to be given to Nakamura and AJ Styles would definitely not justify those two being in NXT. I can't say the same for Anderson and Gallows. I did speak to Carl Anderson about a week and a half ago, and he was very open about joining NXT. Told me he would actually like to join the Balor Club, and AJ Styles. Well, he and AJ Styles both blatantly said we have to do what's best for our family. If they offer us more money for a better deal to stay in America than New Japan, then they were going to do it because that was what was best for their family. Vince Russo on the podcast the other night said he didn't think that AJ Styles could deal with the politics backstage. I'm not privy to those politics right now. I'm kind of hoping the culture changes because of these guys. But it really looks like Triple H and Vince McMahon sat down on a Friday night and caught an episode of New Japan on Access, and they said, yeah, we want him, we want him, we want him. Oh, yeah, we'll take that play-by-play guy, too. This is quite the raid.
Yeah, this came out of the blue. I was hoping maybe one day we'd see Styles, but the fact they're actually going to the length of bringing Anderson, Gallows, and Nakamura to mix us, it's a really good thing for the business and also for the company, because I hear Jim Ross say this a lot on his podcast. It's good to have your guys that are part-timers or special attractions, but it's also another thing to have guys in their prime that have experience to work with the younger guys that may not have that much TV experience. in the mainstream. So I think this is really good for the WWE. Going to your Vince Russo point, Sean, do you feel Vince is saying that because of the whole CM Punk fiasco as far as AJ Styles dealing with the politics?
Well, from what he had told us, it was more because in his words, that they handled him, AJ Styles, with kid gloves in TNA. They didn't want him to have to deal with politics in TNA. He probably didn't have to deal with politics in New Japan or Ring of Honor because he had his spots there ready for him. I mean, yeah, everybody knows about the issues that CM Punk faced, and as much as I love AJ Styles, he's arguably the best wrestler in the world. He's not exactly the personality that CM Punk is. And if a guy like CM Punk just throws his hands up and he's like, I'm done with this, you got to wonder what a guy like AJ Styles will do. We saw somebody like Daniel Bryan get walked all over until the crowd just wouldn't have it anymore. So that very well could be what he meant.
Yeah, I think, from my point of view, I think Vince makes the point that they're handling with kid gloves because he was obviously the biggest free agent in the business by the time TNA started. So, of course, they would hold on to him. I mean, that was the thing that kept that company on air even before they went to Spike TV. So, I can see where he's coming from with that. Going back to the event here, like you mentioned, the Shibata-Ishii match was so physical. I forgot who Sakuraba fought last year, but it was very similar with the headbutts and the repetitive kicks to the head, and just the sheer physicality of a match like that. I gotta give credit where credit's due. The guys put their bodies through it, but yeah, they're gonna be feeling that for the next couple of days.
Then they all wrestled the next day. Well, Shibata and Ishii wrestled the next day on New Year Dash, which was another good show. Last year, Sakuraba faced Minoru Suzuki, and these are two guys who, I mean, they laid it all on the line, and it was a violent affair, as most of the never open weight championship matches are. It's kind of when you see that on the bill, you know it's going to be really, really violent. It was an excellent match. You'll have some people that don't like the psychology of those matches, some people that do, but, I mean, there's no way you can't enjoy that match unless you just don't like two big dudes beating the hell out of each other.
Yeah. Going back to the show, would you take Tanahashi and Okada from this year, or do you prefer the one from last year?
It's tough. I'm going to go with this year because even though in my heart of hearts I knew Okada was going to win, they still pulled a 5-star match out of it. And a lot of times in pro wrestling, I mean, you've been around. When you know somebody's going to win the match, it takes a lot of the luster out of the match.
Yeah.
And I knew Okada was going to win, and they still put on a 5-star match. They still made me, jump up from my keyboard that I was covering the show. It was quite the task to live up to their past Wrestle King or just any of their past matches, but they did it.
We're talking to Sean Ross Sapp from WrestlingInc.com here on the Pro Wrestling Experience, episode 148 on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. Follow Sean at Twitter at Sean Ross Sapp. Sean, I know you're a Bengals fan. Give me a little preview for this Saturday. Is it Saturday, right? Or Sunday, the Bengals are taking on the Steelers.
I think it's Saturday. I'll have to go check. The Bo Jackson curse, hopefully it gets broken. The Bengals have not won a playoff game since they injured Bo Jackson 25 years ago. So we're hoping to crack that. I don't know if Andy Dalton's playing. I haven't checked any headlines yet this morning. He's got a broken thumb. It's really sad because this is the best Bengals team maybe in my lifetime, and we have to play the division rivals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, to advance in the playoffs. It's a bummer. And my Wrestling Inc. podcast co-host, Raj Geary, is a big Broncos fan, and they defeated us last week, and our readers and viewers actually caught us watching the game while on the podcast. That was tragic. You can see my reaction to the Bengals losing on last week's episode. It was sad.
Now, you have a supplement to relieve stress, right? Tell the fans about your guys' On It campaign you guys doing.
Yeah, we worked with On It a little bit. On It puts out some great supplements. Yeah, guys like Triple H, Cesaro, Seth Rollins, Stone Cold Steve Austin use it. I personally use several On It supplements for memory, mood, for stuff like that. On It Alpha Brain, On It Shroom Tech is their energy supplement, which I had to use to stay up for Wrestle Kingdom. But yeah, go to onit.com/wrestling. You can save 10%. And if you don't like the product, if you, as I say on the show, if you don't like being a super genius or being strong as Cesaro to where you can hit a neutralizer on a parked car, you can send it back. They'll give you your money back.
That's awesome. Let's get into a little other stuff here. I'm not sure if you saw TNA last night. I had to cover it for WrestleZone yesterday, but if you did see the show, what was your TNA's debut on Pop TV?
I did. I loved the new intro. I thought that was great. Their transition music is a drastic improvement. I don't get it in HD. I have DirecTV, and Pop HD is not included on their lineup, which is a bummer. I thought it was more of TNA. I thought EC3 was absolutely great, as he always is. I thought that Maria was excellent on the mic. Mike Bennett was okay. Matt Hardy is really over with the crowd, despite, and he works hard too, but, he's over with the crowd. I think Bobby Lashley just keeps getting better. But then there were things like the way they handled the knockouts. That wasn't good. The random reappearance of James Storm, yeah, that's fine, but I mean, kind of weird how they put a lot of this stuff together. They put a lot of the same on one show. They didn't showcase their X division. There were a lot of things just the same. It was more of the same than TNA, and I hate that because you see guys like EC3 and Lashley and Bobby Roode and Gail Kim who are so talented, but it's just more of the same. It's like they just booked another episode of Impact instead of a special debut episode of Impact.
I couldn't agree with you more, and especially the worst part of it is that I know there's little pockets of people that enjoy Josh Matthews, but having to listen to him in the Pope for 2 hours didn't really do the show any favors. There was a lot of talking on last night's show. I liked the Mike Bennett, Maria Kanellis appearance. I think it's something out of the box, and I couldn't be happier for those two. Those two are really good performers. But besides that, I mean, I honestly, Sean, besides EC3, I thought Eric Young was the one that stood out the most from everybody on last night's Impact.
Yeah, I like Mike Bennett, as you mentioned, but they have about 10 or 15 guys exactly like him on that roster. Nothing against him, because I like Mike Bennett, and I think Maria is great. The strides that Maria Kanellis has made since leaving WWE and the improvements are unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, Eric Young, it's crazy because if Eric Young were like 4 inches taller, he'd be one of the biggest superstars in wrestling right now, period, because he has such range as a character. He's good in the ring. He throws himself into a character so much, but for whatever reason, TNA can't break through the mainstream, and he obviously is an entertaining guy. He has a billion shows, a billion projects going on. But yeah, Eric Young is one of those few guys that sets himself out to be different.
It was announced on Monday that the second time in history for the WWE title will be defended in the Royal Rumble match. Now, for historical context, in '92 the title was vacated. This time Reigns is defending the world title. Do you like this idea? I think it's something out of the box. I know some people are saying, it's going to be predictable, blah, 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 blah. But I'm waiting to see what happens instead of assuming and then just going into the show with a jaded perspective.
Yeah, did they say on the show it would be the second time it was defended? My podcast co-host said that too, but I don't think Hogan ever actually defended it in there. And if he did, they never told anybody about it. before he was doing it. But I predicted this, I think on December 29th is when the tweet came out, and I said, well, if Vince McMahon is that upset at Roman Reigns, he should just put him in the Royal Rumble to defend the title. And the reason that I said that was because the WWE roster is so thin right now. That's why the Nakamura AJ Styles stuff couldn't come at a better time. They are so thin on that roster. You're missing Cesaro, Seth Rollins, Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan. John Cena has been part-time lately. Undertaker's not there right now. Brock Lesnar is in and out and things like that. It looked like they would get the shot in the arm with Alberto Del Rio, and he went from a big return to mid-card in a hurry. So I think this is a great idea because they can bring out surprises. If you're Vince McMahon, you want to load this Royal Rumble. Also, I'll keep plugging the podcast. Raj Giri said on there, or I think maybe it was Vince Russo, he said, this should be Vince's opportunity to go look at Curtis Axel and people like that and say, you're not in it. You're not going to throw Roman Reigns over the top. There's no way you can do that. And throw in a bigger name. They really need to make this Royal Rumble match something special, and there's a million ways they can go out of this match. It would not surprise me in the least to see Triple H win this match and win the WWE title and defend it at WrestleMania.
You know, it's an interesting point here, Sean, that not a lot of people are bringing up in this scenario. Over the last couple years, the Rumble match specifically, I remember as a kid growing up during the Ruthless Aggression era that when you had a Rumble, you'd at least get a couple of matches for WrestleMania set up from that Rumble. I could see 3 or 4 scenarios in this particular match if the right people are in it that could be set up for a Mania match. I mean, Jericho came back this past Monday night. You can see that happening if he interacts with Ambrose. Kevin Owens, whatever he's doing, I think that's something people need to pay attention to than more just the Triple H and Roman Reigns factor.
Yeah, there are a lot of matches I want to happen. I don't know what direction they're going with Kevin Owens, but it looks like he'll probably at least face Dean Ambrose in an Intercontinental title match on the show, based on the way some things have went lately. I would love to see Sami Zayn debut in that Royal Rumble and eliminate Kevin Owens because you have 6 months worth of video packages to show from NXT to get them over, and Sami Zayn is about the most likable person on the planet. He has a quality similar to that of Daniel Bryan. Yeah, I definitely think they can set up Triple H, Reigns, or Brock Lesnar, anybody who throws Brock Lesnar out, and if he's in it, immediately, gets, Brock Lesnar wants to kill them.
Yeah.
So there are tons of things to set up people. I thought last year for sure they were going to set up anybody versus Rusev by having somebody throw Rusev over the top. Like I thought maybe a debuting Kurt Angle, but that didn't happen. But there were a million different ways. I mean, that's the perfect way to start a feud is somebody costing you your title hopes, especially in this match where the stakes are even higher.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, and I feel like this is going to be a coming-out party for a lot of guys. As far as WrestleMania is concerned, yeah, you're going to have your guys like Taker, Brock, etc. But for me, as this year progresses, I think it's going to be more where you have some guys that you feel that are left in limbo or in the middle of nowhere. They're going to get more opportunities this year, and I think this WrestleMania will be the swan song as far as relying on part-timers all the time to be your marquee draws for the business. So I'm looking forward to the Rumble match, most certainly. 2 more things before we let you go, Sean. Hall of Fame this year. Who's in? Who you got, buddy?
I think Vader is positioning himself to get in. Where's WrestleMania at? Dallas? Oh, man, the Freebirds have to go in. If the Freebirds don't go in, that's a big problem. They definitely need it. The thing with me is people always say, well, WWE's going to run out of Hall of Famers. No, they're not. Coco Beware's in the Hall of Fame. They're not going to run out of people to put in there. You could see a guy like Goldberg go in. I could see anybody. I mean, WWE, there are no limits with their Hall of Fame. Obviously, There are some people who have done such deplorable things that they will never get in, but if it's just a politics issue, they can mend the fence with anybody long enough to pay them some money to show up. So I definitely think the Freebirds are going to get in. Vader should get in. I'd like to see a guy like Goldberg get in as well.
Do you think Rock gets in?
This year? You know what? He keeps teasing something big. That could be it. Who knows? Well, isn't... Yeah. It could be him. I mean, that could be his idea of something big, and that would actually be quite a letdown to a lot of fans.
Yeah. It's just an idea. I don't know if he's going to be in a match or not. I got to see him in person for Mania last year in Santa Clara. It was a blast seeing him there. So if he's going to be there, it's going to be cool. Whether it's a match or not, I don't know. But the only scenario I can see him doing that is like him and Triple H, where Vince forces Triple H to put the Authority's power on the line. I don't know if that would happen or not, but I don't know. We'll see what happens.
That was the conversation for a very long time, was to do something in relation to them with Vince McMahon and Stephanie McMahon, and Vince McMahon just decided that he was too old to be on TV, and now here he is, back on TV.
Yep. Tomorrow, SmackDown debuts on the USA Network. Tell us, for those who don't know anything about Mauro Ranallo, tell us what can we expect from Mauro. I've been a fan of his work, obviously, on New Japan, on XXTV, and the great work he's done on Showtime Boxing. But tell us a little bit about Mauro Ranallo.
Oh, man, Mauro Ranallo, for one, he's a great person, but two, he is probably the best play-by-play commentator, not only in pro wrestling, but mixed martial arts. I talked earlier about them changing the culture, and I think he can change the culture of commentary. I did not make it any secret. I was not a fan of Josh Matthews' commentary. I actually kind of like the Pope's color commentary, but man, there are some guys on commentary that are just more of the same, and I think people like Mauro Ranallo can really change things. They can change a lot of things about Mauro Ranallo, but his voice isn't one of them. And his voice is so... It's perfect for pro wrestling because he's excited. And he's not fake excited. He's legitimately excited. If you've ever seen him on New Japan on Access, he is calling taped matches from probably a year or two before, and you would have no idea that he's not in the arena. You think that he is at ringside seeing this for the first time. And that's what the WWE needs. Hopefully they don't turn him into that corny guy that you don't trust. He needs to be an anchor, not a weatherman. You want to be able to trust your pro wrestling commentators.
I can't wait to see what he does. I think he can really bring in the people in, and we haven't had that aspect of WWE commentary in a while. I've stated my case on the show many times that I can't stand JBL. He takes away the enjoyment out of the product more than anybody else. People can harp on subjective booking or whatever, but from an entertainment aspect, JBL does nothing for me on Raw anymore. So hopefully he sticks away from Mauro. So
well, he blocked me on Twitter, so I guess he doesn't like me very much either.
Follow